can't believe that anybody feels the way we do about our girls and all those courts we're traveling to. And all the roads we drive, all the states we see, we've been volleyball so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball.
Well, we're in it now. We're into the heart of qualifying season. This is Chapter 18 of Volleyball'd. That's Allison.
And that's Carlos.
And we're the Medinas, and we are trying to survive a very crazy travel schedule. Now, since our last episode, we talked about our older daughter being in New Orleans and getting a chance to go do Music City Qualifier. Since that point, we had a trip to Sunshine, which actually, it was great. The girls finished second overall, which at the 11-year-old division, that doesn't mean a bid, which, let's face it, that's disappointing, but it was fun.
But we did it again.
How did we do it again?
Once again, in the state of Florida, at a major championship, we got the cops called to our court again.
Yeah, that did happen.
With 11-year-olds.
We did have a minor incident where the police officers were called over to the court, and this wasn't our fault.
No, it was not our fault. And yet again, it was the opposing team, actually not even our opposing team, the parents went a little haywire, and we got involved, and next thing you know, cops on court.
And the police showed up. So the only problem is this only happened 2 times that we've been involved in volleyball, and both times it's happened with us there. So I thought we were acting correctly, but things got a little bit crazy. What happened, just for the audience to know, there was a opposing team that was over from, I'm just going to point you out, Miami. What happened was after our 11-year-old match was over and the finals, congratulations to Top Select. Y'all were good. Y'all were a really good team. And we ended up playing them in the finals. And because for some reason we had to stay in ref, an older match. And the team that had that sideline, which was a Miami team, I'm not going to get into who it was, but you can figure it out. They decided that they were going to harass one of our players on the sidelines. And by the time that our coach complained and the parents complained, the police showed up.
It was our poor little line judge, and they just ripped her a new one, and she walked off the court sobbing, and her mom made an official complaint, and then USAV officials were there, and then police officers were there, and it was actually out of control. The whole second set, we had our parents standing with their arms crossed behind their parents, babysitting them, alongside 4 or 5 other USAV officials to make sure they behaved themselves for the rest of the match. And guess what? They won. In 3. So we were there a whole nother hour dealing with that crap.
So welcome to qualifier season.
Yeah.
Weird stuff happens. So what we have on the agenda as we get into Chapter 18, our older daughter is heading over to St. Louis, and she's going to take part in that qualifier. Our younger daughter is making her way to Minneapolis. We're going to play both ends of this. So what's going to happen is Allison is going to fly from her trip to San Diego for business.
At 5 a.m. tomorrow.
And then make her way over to Minneapolis. Our father-in-law is going to help out. We'll play that tournament. We'll see if maybe that's the bid tournament for us. And at that point, we will then the following week, my older daughter will make her way to Minneapolis. So this is going to be weekend 2. This is going to be a crazy amount of trips that we are doing. So it should be a wild one. But this is the wild part for us, because once we get through this point, now we're only looking at Big South. The younger girls are looking at 3 qualifiers. The older girls are doing 4. So at this point, we will then get to the point where we will be in a better place to kind of navigate the rest of the season. So we'll make it work from there, and then we'll just kind of plan out accordingly. All right, what we wanted to cover in this episode of Volleyball'd, I saw this post, and it was from Volleyball Junkies. And this has been different for us because And you've bared the brunt of this, Allison. You have had a lot of middle school parents who have asked about how much stuff they should put on social media because they're interested in recruiting. And our girls are 11 years old. Some of them are 10 years old. As we get moving forward from here, we have talked to different guests who have talked about how, listen, it's great to have that stuff out there just because coaches in the future get to see how you're progressing. But it's not a matter of this is essential for your kid to live their volleyball dreams when they're that age. It definitely does change when they get older.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Nobody's recruiting a 10-year-old.
Unless you're a freak.
No. At 10 years old, nobody's being recruited. Like, you're not on a list. Maybe they follow you on Instagram, but probably not. It's for your friends and family and teammates, and that's fine. That's perfect. We're actually looking at doing it for our younger child now. But I'm not going to do it. That's not something I'm going to spend my time doing. If she wants to have exposure and she wants to be part of that volleyball community, then we will do it. But it is not our job as parents to monitor and post and like for our children on Instagram. That's why we haven't done it yet for her, because that's not my role as a parent to create a brand for her. She can create her own brand, and that's why we've waited to this point. Our older daughter was kind of an expert at this. She's just good at it. And it's been fruitful for her. So we'll take lessons from that and moving into the future. But yeah, there's no one coming to watch your kid play when you're 10 or 11 years old. So posting your court schedule, unless you're doing it for mama and papa, like really not so necessary.
So let's talk about the difference though, because we've now seen this with our older daughter who's 15, and this was strategic on our standpoint. We decided to play her up with 16-year-olds, and it's a split. It's half and half. And so many of the players on the team, about half of them are 16. They are eligible to be talked to on June 15th when we get to that point. And so this has been different for you and I. We saw this in Music City with the amount of schools. And I think at that point, because we were using University Athlete, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, there was about 50 schools from the Division III level to the Division I level that were all there. And they were buzzing around our court. Now, we were playing well. I get it. Now, did we have Nebraska? Well, first off, they weren't there. But still, did we have those schools? Well, no. But there were so many universities that were walking around. And so that was the first time that you and I ever had the opportunity where when the match was over, we started talking about the coaches that were showing up and taking notes. That was different for us.
Yeah, 16s is where it's at. I mean, that is the recruiting year. So you want to be on your 16th year is very important if you have any inkling or idea that your child wants to pursue volleyball in college. That's the year to make sure you're making the right choice on the team that you're on. Like we have a choice, but you do kind of have a choice. You can decide, if the team you've been put on is the right fit for you or not, and move on from there. But not to say that there's not still recruiting happening at 17s and 18s. And yes, the coaches will dip by in a championship or gold bracket match for your 15s, your 14s, maybe 13s if you've got a super stud on your team, but it's not likely. But yeah, those colleges are buzzing around. And I'm going to say this because I've had this conversation with so many parents that they think you have to be playing at the open level in order to be seen by colleges or play at a good college in the future. And it's just not the case. I mean, we've watched American matches, we've watched Liberty matches, we've watched USA matches, and obviously open matches where there are colleges of all kinds watching a player that they like. There is nothing that says you have to be on an open team in order to go to college to play Division I, Division II, any division of volleyball. So I think that, yes, that might be the highest level that you can play at this age, but it doesn't mean that you're not from an area where playing on a USA team is just as fruitful for you at the end of the day in terms of getting recruited.
Well, and I think that's important, especially for those of you that live in different states and everything gets pushed into, I have to play open. And granted, we've played a lot of open tournaments and there have been coaches there. But I think when you start talking about smaller communities, and there's a lot of listeners that live in smaller communities, it may not make sense ever for your club to ever play open. And so I think a lot of it comes down to the marketing of the player and if schools will show up, knowing it might be a USA match, it might be a Liberty match, but we're interested in this particular player. We had gotten a chance to talk with Coach Aaron, and that was one of our previous episodes when her daughter, as an all-state player who'd accomplished everything, she talked about how there's volleyball that's great at all these levels. And so I think a lot of it comes, we've seen some of these teams that we've played against, some of these clubs where they might be from a smaller community in the state of Georgia, yet they have really good players. Now, do they have 6 of them that are on like a Division I level? Well, no. But yet there are players that schools are swinging by to watch us play against them because they're looking at them and saying, that girl can help me win at the collegiate level.
Right. And we're in the transfer portal era also. Let's remember that, right? So you might have your 3 dream schools talking to you, and you might decide to go to one of them, and you might, in their mind, always be the bench player. And if you don't have those conversations up front and know what the intent is for you, it's just like when you're playing, high school and club level ball. Like, if you're not going to be the go-to, is it really worth saying, oh, I got to play at Louisville, but I never got to actually play? Or would it be better to go to a school that's maybe still Division I, but smaller in a more rural town, and you are the stud and you get to play great volleyball and you get to win? I mean, it's really up to what success looks like to you.
And I think this is important too. We played in a local tournament. We played 17s and 18s division this past weekend, where we played a 17-year-old team from Rocket City Volleyball.
That's my old club, by the way.
Your old club out of Huntsville.
Oh, see.
And they had girls that could play.
Yeah, they were
I mean,
good.
our 16-year-olds, we went to 3 sets. I think we won it, but we had some weird calls. Weird
calls. It was the worst call I've ever seen in history of officiating ever.
It called
literally robbed a championship from us.
They called our middle in the net. It was a very weird call.
On a ball that the girl hit 3 feet behind the coach on the sideline. Like, how do you hit it that far out, but there's a net call? It was actually atrocious. We were jumping up and down, and then we weren't.
But they had girls that could play.
Oh, yeah. They were great.
They were a really good team. And so I think...
And their parents were cool, too.
And their parents were really cool. I spent quite a bit of time talking with them. They wanted to know all about your experience at Rocket City Volleyball, 5 years before, 10 years before. I'm just not trying to out you as far as how long.
25 years before? Yeah, it's been a minute since I played volleyball.
So there was that. But I think a lot of this, when I started looking through some of these posts and it talked about, middle school players. All right, unless you have a freak athlete, it's not going to be a thing where schools are going to show up. But one of the aspects that I saw that was posted as far as when you start trying to recruit 13, 14, 15-year-old players, when you start posting information, so many of these coaches and these colleges talk about, we want to see development. And so if they ever stop by, they're looking for, let me take a look at what you look like now. And I think that is the big benefit that has happened with our older daughter, who's now 15. You can look at her defensively versus some of the stuff she was posting at 13 and 14. And at 15, you see she is significantly better on defense and in serve receive. And for the schools that have started following her on Instagram, which I would highly suggest, just have an online profile. The amount of schools that have started following her, I believe they're looking at a player where they say, that girl keeps getting better. Let's just keep track of her. Now, does it mean she ends up group of 4? Well, maybe not. But still, it's the idea of, if you're posting it, it's not like you're trying to look for recruit, at least unless you're 5-star, which is totally different. Unless you're a freak, it's totally different. But I think a lot of it is showing coaches how you keep improving in this game.
Yeah, and she likes to show her mistakes as much as her amazing highlights, to show that we're all human and we make mistakes, which I think is awesome. But yeah, the recruiting journey, everyone you talk to is going to have a different opinion. Some people are totally fine with shelling out $5,000 to a recruiting agency that's going to do all your branding for you. I'm doing heavy quotes on each side of my mouth, branding for you, to make you look good on social media and put graphics and music over your clips and blah, 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 blah.
And it's useful if you don't know how to do it, in my opinion. If that's what you want to do, that's what you should do.
Listen, we've talked to all those people. We've had the conversations. They butter you up and they tell you all the things you want to hear. But at the end of the day, we're like, we can do all of this. And by we, I mean my child. Like, I'm not getting paid to get her sent to college. But if she really wants it, she'll work for it. And she has, and she is. And, whether she ends up playing in college or not, I know that she will put in the work to do it. And she will advocate for herself because we've explained that that's what coaches want to see anyway. They don't want someone who's going to rely on their parents to do all the work for them.
And by the way, I think that's really important to point out. We have never touched our daughter's social media. Not one time.
Well, there was at the very beginning, I made a post that I thought was super cool, and she deleted it before it ever went live because mama's not cool.
Okay, so mom is not cool, dad is not cool. The best thing I can do, and this is for all the girls that play on our team and our club, all I do is record the matches and I make everything available for them. Whatever they choose to build off that is what they choose to build and what they choose to market themselves with. But we have never been at a point where we have told our older daughter, hey, I just made a video for you. Make sure you post it.
Nope.
That's not what we do.
Now, I will say you played great lights out defense this weekend. You need a defensive highlight reel because it was ridiculous. And yes, she tore a hole in the elbow of her jersey yet again for like the 5th year in a row.
So one of the things that I heard in a podcast, and this is Volleyball'd, by the way, chapter 18. That's Allison. I'm Carlos. We're just sharing some of the stuff that we've done on social media as we get into qualifier season where all the schools are now showing up. And again, this doesn't really apply a ton to our 11-year-old. It applies to a little bit of the older girls. But if you want to start, this is something that we've seen that actually kind of works a little where it all plays out. We don't know. One of the important aspects I heard from a podcast was a coach from a pretty significant school. And they talked about, obviously, highlights. But then they also talked about how they want to see the overall skill development. And that has been different for us when it comes to our older daughter. My older daughter used to just post videos of, like, here's kill after kill after kill. The interaction that she's now gotten is based on the fact that, yeah, the kills are there, but they want to see the defense. They want to see the overall player. And I think this is a fault that does go on in club volleyball at the highest levels. I think we have a difficulty, at least here in Atlanta, of we assign girls positions so early that they have a difficult time turning into a complete volleyball player. And so when it comes to our youngest daughter, she's currently a middle. We know she's not going to be a middle. She'll probably be a pin hitter, but the benefit she's had from playing feeder middle school is that she plays a whole ton of defense. And I think that's what you're trying to do, is show everybody in the future that my kid can play a variety of positions and can help you no matter what the position is.
Yeah, our oldest, all she wanted to do was kill things. Like, she just wanted to swing as hard as she can and kill the ball as often as possible, and all the extra practices and all the extra one-on-ones she wanted. Can I just swing? I just want to hit. I want to hit. And because I played volleyball, and back then we didn't have a libero because I'm old, guys. Outsides had to be able to pass, and your defense had to be better than anybody else who could replace you on the court. So I said, I'll get you more swinging lessons, but first we're going to work on serve receive. First, we're going to have a couple defensive one-on-ones. You've got to be the best passing option on your team to win a viable spot. And she did it, and she's earned that spot on every team she's been on the last couple of years because of it, because she's really put the work in on it. But it doesn't always come naturally. Serve receive is not a natural reaction. You have to work at it. It's something that you got to put the work in. And some of these girls at age 8, they walk in a gym, they say, you're a setter, or they say, you're a libero, or you're a middle hitter. And unless you take the time to try to explore another avenue, or a coach does it for you, then you get stuck there sometimes.
And we talked about, some of the cruel truths of what goes on, about how at times, depending on the club, you have to find additional work outside of the club. And I will tell you, as great as the clubs are here in Atlanta, if you are a setter and you want to learn how to play defense, you're going to have to do it outside of practice time. If you're an outside hitter, they are concerned about 3 positions, 3 spots, and once you're done with that, hey, if you can play defense, we'll figure it out. but they're not going to push to develop you. And so many of these coaches, especially when we get outside, group of four is group of four, and that's outstanding. But if you're talking about a smaller Division I or a smaller Division II or even a very good Division II, they're looking for the complete player. And some of the interviews that I've listened to with coaches, they talk about how that's a problem at the club level, is that we specify so early on that you're this. And while they may look at it and say, listen, you've played middle for the entirety of your club career. I want to play you as a right side, but I need you to also do these additional things. Sometimes that's a challenge when it comes to a lot of people that have been through the club system.
Yeah, I love that you said setter defense, because I've been banging that drum for such a long time. Like, how many times at your practice can you think about when a setter defensive drill was ever done? No. The setter is always working on timing with the hitters. That's just what they work on. There's no such thing as let's take 20 minutes out of practice and make sure our setters are ready for the cannons that are about to come at them in the tournament this weekend. But it's such an important part of the game and not recognized as a skill set that needs to be advanced as much as everything else.
Let's talk about some of these recruiting systems, because as you said, we've been pitched. Some of them make sense for certain players. Some of them don't. I think a lot of the reason why we haven't gravitated towards some of them is because of the social media presence that our older daughter does have, because you're talking about exposure. And that's a lot of, you're just trying to get your kid in front of certain schools, in front of certain coaches. I think the reason why when it comes to a system that we've used recently, like you, it's just because we want to make sure that when my daughter takes an interest in a program, and specifically when they start following her or liking stuff on Instagram, we want to send, because we don't send this through Instagram, we send it through University Athlete. We want to send them a profile that says, I'm this type of student, this is the position I play, here's my contact information. I think that there is no one way to do this. It's just you kind of find what is the best way for your kid if you're looking to get them exposure to coaches and playing possibly at the college level.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what University Athlete was. We had to ask around, like, is this another one of these scammy things? Like, do we need to pay attention to this? But from everyone on the street, everyone you talk to, University Athlete is actually the platform that most university coaches use in order to track their notes, their presence, and their commentary on players. So you can see, that a coach from XYZ division in the state of Michigan took notes or evaluated your daughter, and then you can kind of do the math and figure out which schools we're looking at, or either way. It's really cool, actually, and you put in there what tournaments you're going to be at. Qualifiers obviously are more important than your local tournaments, because more college coaches are going to attend qualifiers, unless it's a showcase tournament, like NIT or one of those. But really important to know who's there and who's looking at you, and as you're trying to assess what your top schools are and what might be the right fit, to know who actually is showing interest. Obviously, that gets a little easier as you get older, and they can actually make contact with your club coaches. They can make contact with you. But right now, in this age, we're kind of in the dark. So we're just, grasping straws, but it gives us something to look at.
And I think it's been helpful for us. Again, they're not compensating for us for this. So I just want to go ahead and point this out.
Nobody pays us anything, by the way.
We're that's coming, by the way. But we're not there yet. But I think what's been important is you can always build a free profile. But if you choose to do the profile that you can pay for, you can start seeing at least a consensus of how your daughter, your son is being looked at. So, for instance, when we see the amount of action on our daughter's page, our older daughter, we can see that it's a mix. And it's been certain Division I programs, certain Division II. There's been some Division III as well. But it kind of helps her focus into, all right, if I'm going to spend time responding or reaching out to certain colleges, this is the level of university that is pursuing me or that's taking an interest. So maybe you don't spend your time chasing UCLA and Stanford. maybe you spend your time chasing a smaller Division I, again, depending on the player. So I think that part has been helpful to at least kind of streamline the process when it comes to the amount of interest that's out there.
Yeah, you got to do the work on your own to figure out, just like, all right, take volleyball completely out of it. Freshman, sophomore year, this is when kids really start thinking about, what do I want to do in the next couple of years? Where do I want to go to school? What kind of experience do I want to have? What kind of campus do I want to live at? What do I want to study? You know, how far away from home do I want to be? Those are questions that need to be asked regardless.
How much?
Well, yeah, that's a big one. But now we're just layering volleyball on top of that. You know, we have had conversations with our daughter that, you know, if you don't want to play in college, we're not going to force it. It's a commitment to play a sport in college. You have to give up a lot of things that a lot of other people are doing. But if you do choose to do that, it opens a whole lot more doors in terms of the types of colleges we can afford to send you to. You know, I mean, we can't just go sending you across the country and pay full tuition, full housing, room and board, you know, and food and everything. Like we have to think about those things if there's not volleyball involved. But if volleyball is involved and they want to cover most of, if not all of that, then yeah, sure, I'll get on a flight.
All right, so that's Allison. I'm Carlos. She's heading over to Minneapolis via San Diego. I'll be in St. Louis for this upcoming weekend, and then Minneapolis the following weekend. So if you happen to see us around, and thank you to some of y'all who have actually kind of given us a wave of, hey, kind of checked out the podcast, really enjoying it. That's been very cool. The amount of time we've been at dinner and we've had friends of ours that stop by just to say, hey, I listened to your podcast on food. We need to do it better on our team. That's been kind of cool. So with that said, thank you to everybody. Why don't you take us out?
Well, I'm going to go upstairs and figure out how to pack a suitcase for a double trip that involves 80-degree temperatures on the beach in San Diego. And on Sunday, as we leave Minneapolis, the temperature will be 8. Single digit, 8 degrees with a 64% chance of snow. Please don't snow. That's all.
Today is gonna be the day that we run out of cash. Watching every serve and kill, it's a total smash. By now you should have somehow realized what we've lost. Our free time's gone, it's all for volleyball at any cost. I tend to believe that anybody feels the way we do about our girls and all those courts we're traveling to. And all the roads we drive, all the states we see. We've been volleyballed all so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball. Backbeat, the word is on the street that we're broke again. Entrance fees for tournaments our girls already in. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but we're at the bar, drinking through the overwhelm. No life beyond this far. Don't believe that anybody feels the way we do about the nets and all the chaos we're stuck into. And all the roads we drive, all the states you see. We've been volleyballed all so desperately. I said maybe we're gonna be the ones to cheer them on. We're lost in this volleyball. And all the lights that lead us there are blinding. The hotel volleyball, oh volleyball. I don't believe that